Agora eu vou pegar, gente. Vai no açaí. Vai no açaí, então, né? Vai no açaí, tá bom.
The way he beat Poirier, man, that choke was so fucking good. It was so good. And that's the same way the world found out about him was Efrain Escudero.
As Charles Oliveira prepares for his fight against Ilia Topuria, Joe Rogan has surprised many by throwing his full support behind Do Bronx in what promises to be a thrilling showdown. While many consider Ilia Topuria the favorite in this fight, Michael Bisping believes Charles Oliveira could be especially dangerous this time around. He highlighted Oliveira's exceptional fighting attributes and emphasized that he has the ability to lock in a submission as quickly as a flash.
Let's just imagine that Ilia Topuria beats Charles Do Bronx Oliveira. That's not a given. We know Charles is amazing. We know he's dangerous. We know he's got the most submissions, the most bonuses. He's a dangerous, aggressive son of a bitch, okay? And he's very technical as well. And he's a buzzsaw. He's going to walk forward, punches, knees, elbows, you name it. He'll lock on a submission quick as a flash, right? Super dangerous, okay?
Despite his praise for Charles Oliveira, Michael noted that Ilia Topuria has a stronger chance of pulling off the victory and potentially becoming a 3-division champion. He reflected on Topuria's career trajectory, acknowledging that while he has faced setbacks in the past, he's now found his path and is building serious momentum.
He's had a long career. He's had close to 50 fights, a lot of wear and tear on the body, a few losses along the way as well. Granted, that was the featherweight version. Of course, Ilia used to be a featherweight. This is his first fight at lightweight, so don't think there's going to be any gigantic size difference. And with the punching power of Ilia Topuria, the boxing that he has, the footwork that he has, and the Greco-Roman wrestling, it wouldn't surprise me if Ilia pulls it off. And if he does become victorious, then you know he's going to look at becoming a 3-weight division champion.
MMA guru and Demetrius Johnson also weighed in on the upcoming fight between Charles Oliveira and Ilia Topuria. MMA guru was adamant that both fighters shouldn't wait for a title opportunity and should go ahead with the bout, calling it a guaranteed fan favorite. Meanwhile, Johnson discussed the weight factor, noting that making weight would be an easy task for Topuria, giving him one less obstacle heading into the fight.
I think that there's a theory about, you know, if there's a belt on the line, it's much bigger.
Yeah.
But people just love the two names. Don't always have to be a belt on the line. They do this with a BMF belt. But if Ilia Topuria fights Charles Oliveira on a pay-per-view, that's a big deal.
Oh, it's going to be bigger.
They don't need to wait for an interim belt. They don't need to wait for an undisputed. So, yeah. I don't know how he's going to do it lightweight, though. Maybe you can speak on that. He's a smaller guy coming up.
It's a smaller coming up. It'll be interesting because he is bigger from when I heard him on the Joe Rogan podcast. Like 191, I think he was walking around. That's massive. So for him to cut to 145, it just seems almost like, how did he do that? But now that he's going up to 155, I always like when athletes go up heavier.
MMA guru and Demetrius Johnson shared their thoughts on the move to 155 and how the weight scenarios could play out for both fighters. MMA guru noted that Charles Oliveira will come in with his sharp, powerful striking and tight hands, emphasizing that the eventual clash between Oliveira and Ilia Topuria could be one of the biggest showdowns in recent memory.
I like that, man, because they're gonna clash. They're gonna clash,
which is why I like the Lopez matchup for him, because he would clash with Ilia in the pocket. Same with Oliveira. He's going to walk in with his high and tight guard.
High tight guard, Muay Thai style.
They're massive.
Yes.
Compared to the featherweights.
Yes.
The lightweight to featherweight power dynamic jump is one of the biggest in a 10-pound range in the weight class. The bantamweight to featherweight, not so much.
Yeah, I get
you. Know what I mean?
Yes.
Welterweight to middleweight, they both hit hard.
25 to 35.
They're similar.
Yeah.
But when it comes from, and we saw that with Figueiredo moving up, he had some success until recently. But power-wise, he had success. He still had power for the 35 division.
Yeah. But like you said, 35-pound division, but Corey Sandhagen, when we had him on, he walks on like 170.
Yeah.
When he's out of shape, right?
Sharing their predictions, MMA guru and Demetrius Johnson both agreed that Ilia Topuria is likely to come out on top against Charles Oliveira. Demetrius noted that Topuria would grind down and out-muscle Oliveira, using his physicality to dominate the fight.
I think he beats Oliveira with a body shot, though.
Ooh,
Ilia.
Yeah, I think Ilia will he'll out-bully.
Yeah, he could back up Oliveira.
I think he'll back up Oliveira once he feels his power.
Regardless of all the criticism, Charles Oliveira has begun training for his upcoming fight against Ilia Topuria, with a strong focus on sharpening his grappling, reminding everyone that the ground remains his domain. He's showcasing his power in camp, sending a clear message that he should not be underestimated and proving that his strength is very much intact heading into the bout.
Agora eu vou pegar, gente. Foi açaí?
Ele vai na saída então, né,
Ah, açaí tá bom.
Vai na saída. Não adianta falar que
É só pra mim o açaí.
não, só pra tu não. Falou que era valendo.
Ei, mano, fala que é só pra mim.
Fala que é 3 minutos.
Seeing Charles Oliveira's preparation, Chael Sonnen couldn't help but react with surprise. He remarked that this version of Charles looks completely different from the one he had seen in the past. Sonnen reflected on his own experience and admitted to previously underestimating Oliveira, acknowledging that overlooking him would be a mistake.
I used to have like this, I was like this anti-Charles Oliveira guy. And it wasn't that I didn't wish well for him or even think that he was a talented guy. I thought he was a little over his skis. I did not think he was the best in the world. I didn't think his world title would be reckoned, right? I mean, the best guy in the world just retired. That's a little critical of me, but I'm just sharing for you. This is what I thought. I didn't think, sure, you know, I remember he missed weight. I was there the night Jim Miller made him scream, and I'd always hear from Gabriel Checo. And every time I talked about Charles, I'd say something negative, and Gabriel would get a hold of me and say, hey, man.
Meanwhile, expressing his surprise at Charles Oliveira's continued loyal fan base, Chael admitted he was taken aback by it. He pointed out that Oliveira has some flaws in his marketing approach, noting that his constantly changing appearance creates confusion around his image. Despite that, Sonnen was impressed to see how fans continue to rally behind him, showing strong support regardless of the inconsistencies.
It did surprise me, like Charles Oliveira, the cult hero. I mean, Charles put a base together of you all, of a loyal and powerful base. It surprised me. From a marketing standpoint, he made a lot of mistakes. He shows up, he's not wearing glasses. He shows up, he's wearing glasses. Okay, great, well, you're in disguise. He shows up, he's got dark hair. He shows up, he's got blonde hair. Like, nobody knows who you are in the first place. It's very important from a marketing standpoint that you at least look the same. He would break all of these rules, but you guys kept getting on board. Okay. So, I then have a chance to see him right up close. I mean, they set me right. I'm at the cage. Here's Dana. Here's the fence. Here's Dana. I'm right here.
Backed by the unwavering support of his fans, Charles Oliveira is training with relentless determination to win this fight. He is fully committed to transforming himself into a beast by the time he steps into the cage with Ilia Topuria. Oliveira is sharpening his skills, building his stamina, and preparing to prove that he is still one of the best when the moment arrives. Furthermore, Charles Oliveira is going all in on his wrestling defense, turning the grind into a statement. With takedown drills on repeat and his reflexes sharper than ever, Du Bronx is making it clear, if Ilia Topuria plans to wrestle, he better come with something special. Oliveira is not just preparing to survive on the mat, he's preparing to dominate. As Charles Oliveira began his training camp, Joe Rogan shared his surprised and admiring reaction. He noted that Oliveira entered the UFC at just 20 years old and has shown remarkable growth and development with each passing year. Rogan reflected on Oliveira's journey, emphasizing how he has consistently faced elite-level competition throughout his career, evolving into one of the most dangerous fighters in the game.
And I also think that he got into the UFC when he was 20. And so part of the problem was, like, he was learning and developing and growing as an elite in an elite organization. How old is he? 32.
Oh, okay, wow.
32. So see, he's been around a long time, but he came into his own over the last few years, which kind of makes sense. Like, he figured it out somewhere around 27, 28. But he comes, look, these guys are elite, right? They come close to beating him, but he finds a way to beat them. And the way he does it is so final. The way he beat Poirier, man, that choke was so fucking good. It was so good. And that's the same way the world found out about him was Efrain Escudero.
Joe recalled how Charles Oliveira shocked the world with his impressive wins over Efrain Escudero, noting that many believed he had reached his peak back then. However, Rogan expressed surprise and admiration at how Oliveira is now reinventing himself, transforming into a beast once again with the goal of dethroning Ilia Topuria,
who won the Ultimate Fighter. So, who was a very good fighter himself. he fought Oliveira, and Oliveira took his back same way, standing up, and choked him out.
Talking about Ilia Topuria, Joe Rogan acknowledged that he's a solid fighter, but pointed out that Charles Oliveira is starting to look like the more dangerous one, especially with the way he's fine-tuning his grappling and training. Rogan also noted that Topuria may have weakened his pay-per-view appeal by vacating his belt, and added that cutting weight could be a much tougher challenge for him this time around.
But I like what you were saying, Topuria versus Oliveira. Oliveira.
Your first introduction at 55, he's kind of the, the
Oliveira
king of
so
55
tall
and dangerous.
So dangerous everywhere, dangerous striking, huge reach advantage.
Yeah. But if you're Topuria, you're not going to go up to 55 without some sort of guarantee. Because remember, he's giving up the belt, so he's not getting pay-per-view points.
But it's his idea.
Well, because the weight cut's too tough.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Meanwhile, during a conversation with Joe Rogan, Ilia Topuria made it clear that he's not afraid to face Charles Oliveira, even going as far as to call him a loser. He pointed out that Oliveira has 10 losses on his record and claimed that Charles gets scared the moment an opponent closes the distance. Topuria bluntly stated that Oliveira drops to the ground too easily, leaving himself wide open to be smashed.
Charles Oliveira, even this is what I was telling you before, like when you got 10 losses in your record, that's not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, that's 10.
Yeah.
Like when you walk in with a guy that has 10 losses, the level of confidence is completely different. It's completely different than when you walk in with a guy that it's undefeated.
Right.
He's a dangerous guy in the striking, in the ground game, everywhere you look at him, he's a dangerous guy. He never takes a lose. That's a different mentality. You gotta have to kill him to give up. He's not gonna even give up. You gotta have to kill him. In the case of Charles, if he finds some adversity, he's gonna go to the ground.
On the other hand, while discussing Charles Oliveira versus Ilia Topuria with Tim Welch, Javier Mendez revealed that he's leaning toward Ilia when it comes to betting odds and who's likely to win. However, he also admitted that despite Ilia being the favorite, he personally wants Charles Oliveira to win the fight. When it comes to Topuria, Mendez noted that it feels like he's nearly unbeatable at the moment, at least by someone like Charles.
Boxer, low stance, versus Charles Oliveira, who kind of stands in a high Muay Thai stance, marches forward with knees. If someone gave you $100 grand to bet on that fight, who would you bet?
Ilia.
By knockout?
I don't know, but I would if someone gave me $100 grand and but if you're asking me who I would want to win, I'll put Charles. I'll put my money on Charles.
Yeah, that's who you'd want.
Yeah, so that's who I'd want.
Yeah.
But if you'd give me 100 to make 100, if it's that type of even, like you get 100, you can make 100. I would put Ilia.
Yeah.
He feels he cannot be beaten.
Yeah, he really does. I mean, gosh, you know as well as anybody, like the confidence is.
Furthermore, Javier praised Ilia and said that he has the best boxing in UFC, and it would be very hard to beat a fighter like that. Meanwhile, Tim Welch shared his thoughts on Topuria's fight with Islam and said that Islam could exploit Ilia's boxing stance and take over the fight with his superior grappling. Although Tim thinks Islam can beat Ilia, he mentioned that he is tough to crack, so the fight is hard to predict.
Basically, because Charles is going to stand in there upright, like you're saying, and when he gets inside, he's going to use that boxing, and Charles' head's going to be up, and Ilia's got a really good way of connecting with that chin on the inside. Really, really nice, just like what he did with Volk. And I think if Charles doesn't get him up the middle with knees or front kicks up the middle, he's going to have a hard time with his boxing against him, and he's going to have a hell of a time trying to take him down. So it's going to be one of those where Ilia's got more opportunities than Charles does. But Charles can surprise us with his length, and up the middle would be really, really well suited for him. And the kicks too, body, head type thing, low, high, he could do really well with that.
Heck yeah. So, okay, someone gives you $100 grand to bet.
Charles Oliveira is dialing in his physical power like never before, putting intense focus on his body kicks, leg strength, and punching power during training. Each kick is delivered with brutal precision, aimed at breaking down his opponent's base. Kamaru Usman shared his prediction for the fight, expressing strong belief in Ilia Topuria's ability to win. He acknowledged that Charles Oliveira is a good fighter, but pointed out that he's been dropped in many of his past bouts, which increases his chances of losing this one. Meanwhile, Usman praised Topuria as a phenomenal talent and said he's fully confident, 100%, in Ilia securing the victory.
Woo! Tell that ain't fire, Kush.
Hey, 100%. This is exactly how I feel. Exactly how I feel. Yes, I do believe Ilia Topuria can win that fight. You see it. Charles Oliveira gets hurt in a lot of fights, and he gets dropped in a lot of fights. And so now you throw in a guy like Ilia that doesn't just hurt you, he will get you out of there, that mixes up the attack, goes to the body, goes to the head. I think Ilia is the favorite in that fight. Taking nothing away from Charles Oliveira. Charles is very, very dangerous, and Charles is very, very good. But I think Ilia is a favorite in that fight, and I think 100% he goes out.
Meanwhile, Kamaru believes this fight is a major opportunity for Ilia Topuria to prove his dominance and elevate his legacy. He noted that some of Topuria's recent performances may have left a few doubts on his resume, but this bout gives him the chance to correct all of that. Usman also acknowledged that Charles Oliveira is one of the best in the lightweight division, with an impressive record of his own, hinting that Oliveira still poses a serious threat to Topuria despite the odds.
Out there, he gets through Charles Oliveira, you 100%, he's next for that. But Khabib is also right. He fought Volkanovski twice because really there wasn't a clear-cut guy to go in there and fight him. And so people do give him for that. Oh, you fought the same guy twice, blah, blah, blah. So, hey, if Ilia is able to go in there and get past Charles Oliveira, I mean, Charles is has mostly almost all the records in that division.
At the same time, Henry Cejudo shared his thoughts on how Islam Makhachev vacating the belt has opened the door for a showdown between Ilia Topuria and Charles Oliveira. He reflected on the potential title implications that the UFC might attach to this fight and noted the growing number of fans rallying behind Oliveira as their favorite. However, Cejudo ultimately believes that Ilia Topuria will rise as the pound-for-pound king when it's all said and done.
I mean, obviously, with Islam relinquishing that bout, now we're going to have an undisputed champ at 155 pounds at International Fight Week. But what if it was an International Fight Week? Do you guys believe that the UFC would maybe think about, doing an interim? But I do believe that because the stakes were so high that the UFC had no other option but to tell Islam, hey, maybe we'll give you a little bit more cash, relinquish the belt, and this is what it is. But that being said, we do have a banger of a fight. We do have a fan favorite in Charles Oliveira. And obviously right now, to me, maybe the number 2 and creeping up to potentially be pound for pound, the Matador, Ilia Topuria.
While Ilia Topuria's decision to vacate his title and move to lightweight raised concerns for some, Henry dismissed those doubts, asserting that Topuria has already proven his dominance. He pointed to Topuria's past performances as evidence of his elite skill set and added that this upcoming fight could showcase the very best of Ilia's abilities, potentially resulting in a major upset for Charles Oliveira.
When I look at this fight, I think of this fight stylistically. I think, okay, the explosive power and the power in the hands, and it's crazy to say that. You have to go with more of Ilia Topuria, right? Ilia Topuria goes high-low. He can go to the body. He can go up top. He's been knocking people out cold. That means Max Holloway, 2 future Hall of Famers. He knocked out. None of those guys went championship rounds. We saw him one time at 155 pounds where he did get hurt against Burns. Against Jai Herbert, but he got hurt. He got dropped, but the Matador in him, he came back and he ended up knocking him out.
Meanwhile, Henry Cejudo also commented on Charles Oliveira's fighting style, highlighting his tendency to go the distance and his effective use of the double leg takedown, which has helped him bring down opponents in the past. However, Cejudo raised concerns about Oliveira's power at lightweight, noting that he hasn't scored a knockout at 155 recently. He warned that if the fight goes the distance, Oliveira could find himself in trouble against a fighter like Ilia Topuria.
Charles Oliveira is the bigger fighter. Charles Oliveira has fought the who's at 155 pounds. I mean, everything absolutely changes, man, with Charles Oliveira taking down Michael Chandler, with Charles Oliveira taking down Justin Gaethje with those beautiful double legs. But I will say this, when I think of this fight, I always think of the distance that Charles Oliveira brings, and particularly he likes to be in close. And the fact that he likes to be in close with an inside fighter, it doesn't make sense. And that was one thing, the person that needs to make adjustments in this fight.
The heat is building, the lines are drawn, and the lightweight division is about to explode. Charles Oliveira is sharpening every weapon, while Ilia Topuria is coming in with fire and fury. Legends, analysts, and fans are split, but one thing's for sure, this fight will shake the UFC to its core. Who's your pick? Do Bronx or El Matador? Drop your predictions in the comments, hit that like button, and subscribe for all the latest fight breakdowns and updates. The war is coming and you won't want to miss it.